good to go. If there's anything that nothing's live, so if there's anything you want to pop in and be like, hey, reword that or do that differently. Yeah, whatever you guys want.
I'm really not, Jason.
I love it. Awesome. All right, well, I'll do the intro, and then we'll just get right into it if that works.
Does that work? Okay. Nicole look good. Everything. No, nothing hanging out of my nose.
Thank you. You look. Yeah, I'm good. Nose check. We're good. Everyone. Cameras are good. We're rolling. You do the audio test. We're good.
Yeah, everything's good.
Beautiful. Okay. Cool. Let's do it. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, I am joined by a social media megastar and father of the appointed first family of TikTok, Marc D'Amelio. His social media megastar family, Charli, Dixie, and his wife, Heidi, have a combined social media following of over 365 million and a successful TV show on Hulu. Season 2 is coming out soon, and we will talk about it. Marc and Heidi continue to encourage their daughters to use their platforms for good and to create positive change in the world, all while balancing his professional career as an apparel entrepreneur, advisor in the sports industry, and most recently announcing the formation of D'Amelio Brands, which we're also going to dive into. Today, we are going to dive into the family's rise to fame, their successes and struggles, and all the details on the big-time money being generated from the social media empire that is the D'Amelio family. Marc, we are so excited to have you today. Thank you for coming on Trading Secrets.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to be here.
Yes, this is exciting. So it's awesome because we talk a lot about business, career navigation, and of course social media, and that's literally now like the entirety of your world and empire. And I want to get into a little bit of the numbers, right? So Wall Street Journal, they released an article at the very beginning of the year showing how TikTok stars are outperforming some of the top CEOs in the S&P 500, right? And on the top of the list was Charli at 17.5 million in 2021. So my question to you is, that was at the end of 2021. We saw that article. But when for you did you say, whoa, there's some real dollars here. We got to start taking this seriously. We might have to get a real money manager, a real talent manager. What was that moment?
Yeah, that was early on. When it was in the thousands of followers, it was like, okay, this is fun. And then when it got to 50, and then I remember we had a cake made for her when she got 100,000 followers on TikTok. And I'm in the apparel business. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I've been involved with brands, and I have a lot of friends that do licensing. So I picked up the phone and called and said, is this a business yet? And early on, we had people, record companies and record executives getting in touch with Charli directly. And Heidi tells a story that Charli came and said to Heidi, hey, this guy wants to give me $100 to do a dance to his song on TikTok. And Heidi's like, that's not real. Let me and
$100
and it happened. So it started off with just these small little deals, and it has escalated into something massive.
Absolutely massive. Now, how much of an impact did you have on kind of building this fun little thing on social media to actually like building a brand and steering the direction? Is that something you've done in your previous lives?
Yeah, I think I was definitely instrumental in first of all, I teach my kids, if we're going to do something and you're committed to it, we're going to do it right. Unless it's a hobby. If it's a hobby and we're just like, you want to go do something for fun, it's fun. But once Charli decided that this is something she wanted to do, then I was like, all right, let's get your website up and running. Let's get logos. Let's create this as a brand. But the one thing I did early on is just because I saw so many of the stories about parents and with children that become famous and how parents usually mess up the navigation of things that they just don't know.
Right.
I think our first person we hired was a lawyer, and the second person was a business manager. Might have been the opposite.
Yeah.
I wanted to have someone who knew this business.
Sure.
With their eyes on it.
That's such a good perspective too, is because you have business experience, you know your businesses, but I think there's so much to be said about making sure you're lining yourself with experts in industries you're not familiar with, right? Yeah. Because it can create a world of difference. People are going to hear these numbers. They're going to see the 17.5. Maybe they've read it before, maybe they haven't. And I think immediately people think, I want to do that. Right? I think even adults are like, my dad will be like, so how do I get into social media? How does this work? And then you, of course, have kids, and it's like the number one aspiring career now. So what advice would you have for anyone out there, a child, a kid, a parent that's dealing with a child who has these aspirations of pursuing social media full time as a career?
It's difficult, and I would say part of Charli and Dixie's success is their lack of really wanting to be successful. I think there's something that happens where you're just kind of, where TikTok created this environment where you could be in your room and be really authentic and natural. And even to this day, people think we have this huge master plan, and we're getting better at it, but like we have no posting schedule. We have no, aside from the things that we're contractually obligated to do.
Yeah,
it's a free for all. So
interesting.
And on the side of what I would tell parents is embrace it. I mean, I think we early on, maybe because of my background and the fact that I was working with different clothing brands, that I had to be on social media, that I just felt it was something that if you lay the groundwork and you teach your kids to respect what their platform is, even if it's small, and that these things that you post or negative things that happen or could last forever, and totally. But I think the one thing I would say to parents is get involved to the extent where you're not necessarily doing TikTok dances, but you're keeping an eye on it. And I think it's important so you understand it. But the parents are just like, hey, my kids aren't going to be on social media till this age, or that's not that. TikTok is for kids, like it's just, or social media in general. I think we've over the last couple of years have proven that any occupation, any career could be amplified by a great social media presence. So
it's so cool that you have that perspective, because I think so many parents out there try to put like a lid on them and control kids, but to just embrace it and see where it goes. And that's such a good point. I never thought about that. Think about the impact your kids have had on people that are like, you know what, I can be creative in my space, or the way I do it, the way I want to do it, and think about what that's created. It's wild. When you talk about getting a business manager, I read one article that said that you guys had moved and signed a deal with UTA for them to be your agents. So I'm curious, when that's a huge decision as to like who you're going to align yourself with. And I do think there's a lot of like business takeaways that are that go into that thought process. So what are some of like the components that went into deciding UTAs for us?
So I think, first of all, Charli was 15. So there was no way we were going to let her come to LA by herself. So we were coming as a family, and luckily during COVID, I had a showroom in New York City. I couldn't get into it anyway. So I was open to relocate. So that was a little bit of luck. And we found that when we were working with agents, and most of them were just like, it was basically a territory grab. They're just like, hey, TikTok's a new thing. This girl's really popular on TikTok. Let's grab her and bring her. No real thought on what they're going to do with her, how they're going to help her career. And what was interesting about UTA is they started to dive into my wife's numbers and my numbers and Dixie's numbers. And they looked at it. We didn't come to them and say, hey, we have this great idea. Why don't we come and become a Hollywood family? They're the ones that approached us. And they put we met them in New York City after we were in LA. And they're the ones that said, hey, we think your family has something. Heidi's growth, although Charli is exploding, Heidi's growth on Instagram is incredible. Dixie is someone that we think could be big, and started asking about what our interests were. So, and then once we met with them after meeting with other agencies, it was still to this day. I mean, I love UTA. I love Jeremy. We hired Greg, who is now the president of our company, was our agent at UTA. Cool. We brought him over to us with Jeremy Zimmer's approval. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome. When you signed with UTA, you did like the whole family package. Like you're taking out one of us, you're taking all of us, and you're going to help us develop.
But again, that was their idea. I think people get this, like I love what's happening with my kids, but I'm more of a reluctant. I would never consider myself a celebrity. We have some notoriety, and I think that they're the ones that were like, hey, you know what? You guys could do this as a family. I wasn't like, Charli, how do I get it?
Yeah.
Even to this day,
Give me the
I
deal.
kind of get not embarrassed by it. I realize that it's a really unique situation. I don't understand why us for a lot of reasons, and I certainly am not going to try to push myself into something, but it's worked out. Like, I mean, it's funny because Charli and Dixie, as much as Heidi and I say to them, like, do you guys really still want to hang out with us? And we're still going on vacation together, even though they don't live with us anymore. We still have a really cool family dynamic. So
I think it's a testament to what you said earlier too, that it's not like this was all this like premeditated thing and they have this posting schedule. And I think especially out in LA, you see so much of that, and it's so refreshing to just see like, no, this is just who we are, and if this is the roller coaster it takes us on, we're here for it.
Yeah, the only thing I said was you're going out to LA by yourself over my dead body. That's and
Daddy's coming.
and that's it. Because we know, I mean, the stories, there's so many. I mean, this town is littered with stories of people, young kids that just got taken advantage of or got in the wrong situation. And I don't know that I'll be able to prevent everything, but I think having the stability of Dixie and Charli being able to reach out to us and ask us questions, even when we have a huge team. They're always texting my wife or texting me and calling me and asking us stuff.
That's awesome. I think there's so many people out there, especially though even listening to this, that's such a like dream, like move to LA and stardom and fame and money and all that stuff. When you moved out here, you had some obviously misconceptions or conceptions, ideas of what could happen. What would you say has been the biggest challenge since you guys did come out to LA?
I think the biggest challenge is just surrounding yourself by, first of all, the notion that everyone in LA is fake and all that's not accurate. I mean, I've met some of the sweetest, coolest, closest friends I've had, but really leaving everything behind and all the people you trust that I've spent my entire life with, and we couldn't bring everybody along with us. We brought a few, but so just navigating, meeting new people and getting that level of trust that I've had friends that I've had since elementary school, and connecting with people for the first time here. That's been a little bit of, but not because of that conception that people have about people in LA. I've had the opposite. I have so many good friends here now.
That's really cool. So that's where you guys are now. It's really interesting to hear all that. That's a misconception out there. But let's talk about where you were. So looked on LinkedIn, and you ran a company called Madsole from 2000 to 2007, and you've always been in the clothing industry. Tell us a little bit about what that company was and how you transitioned that into Level 4 Collective.
Yeah, I started off right out of college in the early 90s as a sales rep, and as I would work with companies and talk with different retailers, I would speak with retailers and they'd say, "Oh man, I wish your company would do this," and I never owned a company. So in 2000, I started my own brand called Madsole out of my basically my house in my apartment in Connecticut, and grew that to till 2007, and then I got back had an opportunity to work with a company called Mitchell & Ness, and I got back on the sales side. So basically, I have a showroom in New York City, or I had a showroom in New York City, and retailers would come into the showroom to see different brands, lines, and we'd present them, and it would act as a sales arm for different clothing companies.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, you think about it's wild, the transition of that to the things that you do now. With Level 4 Collective, what do you guys, like if someone looked into the company, how would you summarize exactly what you guys do today?
I would say if you look at what an attorney does, there's in-house attorneys and there's attorneys that work outside. We're basically the same thing for sales. So a company like Nike might have an internal sales force. My company represents smaller brands and brings them to retail. So we have the showroom. So a store like Lids would come in, and a lot of people thought I owned a retail store because when Dixie, Charli, and even Addison would come to my office in New York, it looked like basically a display on a retail store. And I said, does Marc own a store? Where's his store? So
the internet was doing investigating.
Absolutely.
And so when you started Madsole, though, I love the story. You started out of your like the small house. How much money did you put into the company?
Oh, I probably put $1,000.
Okay.
And it was a struggle. I definitely bit off more than I could chew.
Yeah.
And thought being an entrepreneur was a lot easier than it was. But it was a tough battle to learn. But it was a great education. I think all those things I learned, from design to import, export, invoicing, making cash flow, all those things that I actually didn't have to really didn't have to work through when I was working for, even as an independent rep. I was working for another company. This was sink or swim, was all me.
Yeah, it's cool how a lot of those things you were doing then play into the entrepreneurial moves you could make now in a whole different world. What would you say was the number one lesson you've learned in your entrepreneurial worlds before all of this social media fame?
It's kind of the lesson we talked about earlier. It's entrepreneurs sometimes, because they're so focused on being successful, they take on a lot of the responsibility themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes you have to go out and get help. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like, instead of hiring a graphic designer, I probably spent hundreds of hours learning Illustrator. And this is before you can go on YouTube and really get a good tutorial.
Sure.
So it was just like,
and you're just grinding, trying to
just picking up the phone. And there is more access to talent now. Back then, you had the yellow pages. You really couldn't find
just cold calling for designers.
So, but I found myself, whether it was accounting or and I was limited with how much money I had to hire people. But there is an opportunity cost for you to learn and do it yourself, as opposed to just, hey, I'm not an expert. Let me hire this guy. Let me hire that guy, or barter or something that at least connect with people. And that's what we did with the girls as we started to see some success. We looked at bringing a team around us, as opposed to me saying, "Oh yeah, no, I used to sell T-shirts, so now I know how to run Hollywood." It's like, it's just.
But did that thought cross your mind at all? Like, maybe I could manage. I know the business. I can negotiate. I could represent.
I think to a fault, I probably stay back more than I should.
Yeah.
Because I so don't want to create a mistake for my kids and they're like, oh, here's another dad who knows nothing about Hollywood butting his nose into something and screwing it up. But but there are sometimes, like, I think now that I've have almost 3 years of experience, I'm not an expert by any means, but I definitely could interject and feel comfortable that what I have to say it comes from a point of view that I think will be helpful. So.
I love it. Outsource, find the right people, because it could save you a lot of time and money. I wrote a book called The Restart Roadmap, which is all about changing your direction, making pivots, and kind of leading the life you want versus the way life is leading you. I look at the pivot you guys made. I mean, wild and astronomical. What was your plan, or what was, you guys were going to be empty nesters. Like, what was the next step looking like for you and your wife before all this craziness happened?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely heavily involved with the kids as they were growing up, and we were this foursome that did a lot of things together. And then as Charli entered high school with Dixie, we started to hang out less, as is the story across this country, that when kids get into high school, they start to distance themselves from their parents.
Of course.
But still an incredible relationship. And we were starting to go back to the days when we first met. We lived in New York City, and we had this great relationship, and it changes, still great, but changes when you have kids. And then we started going back to that a little bit, and starting to hang out with friends and socializing in our own circles. I think as soon as you have kids, you start to socialize with parents who are your kids' friends' parents.
Yep, of course.
So now we went back to, like, hey, we really like, Paul and Tina, and we're good friends, and so it was that. And then we were just contemplating between whether to stay in Connecticut or move to a warmer climate. But quite frankly, California was not on the list, just from we didn't really have any reason to come out here.
And I read somewhere that you guys were actually planning to consider retiring. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could never see myself fully retired, but I could see myself balancing some sort of entrepreneurial business while living in a place where I'm not 9 to 5 going in an office. Like, I think that's more retirement than actually retiring and playing golf every day.
Yeah. Well, from being an empty nester to considering taking it back, now having millions of followers yourself, and then a reality television show, The D'Amelio Show. The second season premieres here September 28th. What a wild, wild turn of events when you think about what reality TV could have been versus what it has been. What has been the biggest takeaway?
So the biggest takeaway for me was that I thought it was going to be more like you wake up in the morning and a camera's going to be in your face. Okay. And then I didn't realize, I guess I probably should have thought that there was more structure in it.
Okay.
But it is a really good depiction of what happens every day. They don't come to us with ideas. They look at our schedule and what's going on, and then they say, hey, we want to follow this. And then they film it. And then we come back and we talk about it. So it's more real than I thought it would be. And I think they consider our show more of a docuseries than a reality show. But it is unscripted reality. But that aspect of, although it's a lot of work, there's in a week's period of time, maybe I'm on camera a couple of hours, where I thought it would have been
like 24/7.
Good morning, Marc and Heidi. What's going on?
You're trying to take a shower. Get the hell out of here. I mean, 2 rumors that you've broken. The people in LA are great in these reality TV shows. I like that you said it's like a true depiction of like what actually happened. I mean, that's another. I think people think things are like staged and stuff like that, so that's good to know. Is there anything at all you could tease about season 2 for us? Anything you could give us a heads up or why we should watch?
I think that you see growth in us. I think the first season, although it was a true depiction, it was during COVID. It was very, it was a little bit dark, but I think those were stories that I'm very proud of my girls that they had to tell. Because you said earlier, this is the life that everyone asked for. All these kids want to be in this position. But be careful what you wish for. And you could be extremely appreciative, know that you're super blessed to be in this situation, but also know that it's not easy all the time, and it is stressful. And having millions of eyes on you is very stressful, especially dealing with being home so much during COVID. Yeah. The second season, we get out of the house more. You get to see a little bit more of what our family is like in happier times. There's still ups and downs and controversy, but I think it's season 2, I would say, is a lot lighter than season 1.
Okay.
And you get to know us you get to know more sides of us.
I'm excited for that. One thing I got to ask you, especially being a business finance podcast, is a father of 2 daughters who have had extreme financial success. Like, from a parental standpoint, how do you manage that so that the money doesn't get away? And how do you parent? I just imagine if I was that age with that kind of money, I don't know if at 33 I'd still be around. So what do you do to just keep everyone down to earth and humble when those type of dollars are rolling in?
I think although we came from I had a good career and we were well off before this. I think that if there's not really anything I have to worry about. Like, Charli will come to me sometimes and goes, Dad, I spent a lot on Amazon. I'm like, what's a lot, Charli? And I'm like,
give me numbers.
I'm like, you're okay. Don't worry about it. So they haven't been very extravagant. They spend money on a house, and Charli doesn't even own a car that she doesn't drive. Yeah. Dixie has a car, but there's no Lamborghinis in the horizon. They're just enjoying it. So I don't. And then any kind of big purchase or anything, we have a financial manager, but it's actually a whole firm in New York that we've been with for a while, and now we're starting to talk about, as we build the brand, to put a little financial team out here to kind of make sure we're on top of everything. But I'm knock on wood, I'm very very happy that they haven't. And I think that's a testament to my wife. My wife is I wouldn't say frugal, but she definitely will make sure that
an eye on
she's good that way.
Checks and balances, down to earth, good parenting. It's all good stuff. You talked about your wife. You talked about Charli. I heard that Charli said in an interview your wife grew up as a competitive dancer and that you did break dancing. Can you confirm or deny? Are you a break dancer? Can we see a little move out here?
You can.
Just kidding. He's like, oh no.
No, I will. There is an actual video of me doing something recently.
Okay.
We were dance battling. I think it was me and one of these gamer kids versus Charli, and so if you search it, you can find it. But Heidi was definitely a dancer growing up, and I did dance a little bit, but I don't know that any of that. Maybe genetically it kind of worked through to get to Charli, but it's not like she saw me doing stuff on with Dixie's bicycle. Like Dixie was a competitive bicycle racer. Like I grew up doing that, BMX. So that's where she definitely saw me do it, and we would go ride together.
I love it. Well, I'm going to hold you to this breakdancing thing one of these times. But for the competitive dancing for Heidi, hearing some things out there, maybe Heidi might be on this season of Dancing with the Stars. What do you think the odds are she would win if she took that on? I got to see my better half win a mirror ball in Dancing with the Stars. You're going to be sitting there cheering on your better half. Heidi is on this season of Dancing with the Stars. I like to bet. I like to gamble a little bit. Give me some Vegas odds. Is she a favorite? Is she an underdog? What can we expect?
Between Heidi and Charli, I think obviously technically Charli's probably a better dancer, but my wife is when she puts her mind to something, and I can already tell she's going to be committed to try to win. So we'll see what happens.
There you go. You heard it here. Marc has got his money on Heidi. That's a good husband right there. And what's interesting, I'll tell you, just from my vantage point, seeing in Caitlin being on the show, it is hard work. I mean, they're in there grinding hours and hours, and she's coming back with all these blisters, and she's just like dying. She's got a chiropractor there every night. I mean, it was like, I couldn't believe how intense the show was. So buckle up. You'll be given some foot rubs.
Thank you. I'm ready for it. I'm excited. And I think it's going to be great for Charli also, because dance was such a big part of her life, and with all that has been going on, she just hasn't been focusing on dance. So this is kind of a cool way for her to get back into it, and hopefully she catches the bug again and falls back in love with dance.
I love it. I'm sure she will. I will say it was like that. Caitlin, my fiance, she was a dancer her whole life, and I don't know I've ever seen her smile the way she was smiling on that dance floor. So I hope that's the same. They enjoy it. But I want to get back to business just a little bit here. D'Amelio Brands. I think it's genius what you guys have done. Some of the partners you've had, the way that you've raised capital. Tell us a little bit about D'Amelio Brands and why you guys started it.
We started for a simple reason of that we realize in this business that we're going to have to endorse other companies, and which we love. And we have some incredible partners, and there's some things we just won't be able to do on our own, whether it's a technology company or things that. But there are things we can do on our own. And with my background and my ability, my sourcing knowledge and my branding knowledge, we decided to create basically an incubator company for brands. Okay. And we partnered with a bunch of different really great investors. We put a valuation out there based on where we think we are going to go with this thing at $100 million, and we could have raised a lot more, but we held it at 5 and actually just extended to. So we sold 6% of it. And we raised a lot of money, and that's going right into creating these brands. And I think the important thing is what we don't want to do is just be another celebrity family that is creating things and products that other people don't need. So we're definitely going to be mindful of everything from if it doesn't have a purpose or it doesn't fill a void of something that's not already filled. I really don't want to be involved in it, because we don't just want to clutter the planet with more products and things like that. So we're looking at whether it's a sustainable merch company that actually does things the right way and works with other influencers, to a bunch of different products and categories. But again, both Dixie and Charli are very committed to making sure that we're not just having another product category
out there.
Yeah,
Interesting. So valued at about 100 million. You said 6 million, raised 6 million, and it's going to be brands that will be owned by the investing group, but will serve multiple niches, not just Charli and Dixie's, like a brand under their name that they're pushing. It'll be an array of different products and consumer packaged goods.
And it could be a cool. We didn't, obviously the drivers in our family are Dixie and Charli.
Yeah.
But if there's something that we can get behind, whether it's a household product or a dog product or a dog brand that we could speak to because we have 4 dogs and we're dog people, that could be something really cool.
I love that. That is really cool. If someone does have a product and they're like, I think they would like it, but they are a small startup, how could they possibly get into an incubator like this?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of times what I've heard is people say, oh, well, this XYZ celebrity is just why are they doing that? But we can partner with, whether it's our investment fund that we partner with small companies or something like this. We would love to partner with up and coming brands or people that have patents, trademarks, things like that we could take their technology and share it with our platform and grow something cool together.
Yeah, so. Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. DM Marc. Maybe you'll get in there. The last question I got for you before we get your trading secret, which we'll need to know, is just you've already generated, you had success before this all happened. You're at a whole different level of success with your family. You have a docu-series. You'll have D'Amelio brands. What is if you put like a vision board together, like what's next? Like what, I mean, it seems like you guys can conquer the world at this point. I'm curious what's next when you're at the dinner table thinking about 5-10 years from now with you guys.
I mean, we constantly talk about setting up goals around happiness. And it's never something that, like, it's never about how much money we could stockpile or what we can. It's always about like what makes each of us tick, and are we following the path to make. And it sounds like really like that's something I'd be saying on a podcast, but it really is. Like I sit there and when either of my daughters gets in a rut, I'm like, I mean, you gotta look within and find out what you're all about, and then we can do things. All the success is just a vehicle to do good in the world and to hopefully create happiness within yourself. And that's what we always have these checks all the time. It's a little bit less now because we're all deep into it, but early on it was like, is this something you guys really want to do? Is this something that we're opening up this Pandora's box? So is this something that so that's kind of where each of us talk about but I don't see it about, I want us to have $1 billion company, or I want to do this. It never gets like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool. It aligns, and I've talked about this at lengths on this podcast. So for my listeners, if you heard it before and you're saying I'm redundant, I don't care. Rob Dyrdek, when he came on, that's a lot about what he talked about. And his trading secret is he has a whole entire Excel file he's been filling out for 7 years on what he does within the day. And it's very like, did I drink today? How many drinks did I have? Did I work out? Was I filming? And he figured out like the algorithm to his, and it's just happiness. He's just figured out what level of happiness creates, or what things he does creates the best output of happiness. And so like one thing he did was he recognized when he's filming, he's drinking more, he's away from his wife and kids, and as a result of that, his happiness is lower. So then he put a system in place where he's only filming 4% of the year. So it's just interesting that some of the most successful people out there with the biggest dollars and values and net worth, that's not what they're chasing. They're actually chasing the core of happiness, which will drive those other things. Then I got to ask one last question: is what truly makes you happy? Like when you look at your thing, like your everything in life they have going on, like what is the key to your happiness?
I think I'm not different than most parents out there. I'm very committed to our family, and I've always, although I definitely look about things to make myself happy, but I say to Charli and Dixie all the time, like, if you guys are happy, I'm happy, and it's true. Like, they can turn my world into a tailspin if all of a sudden their world isn't going right. And maybe that'll, as they get older and they have their own kids, it'll change. But from the time they were born till right now, my happiness is based off my family's happiness.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it. And if you are ever questioning that happiness watching Dancing with the Stars, because there are some hot guys out there like Gleb that might be dancing, you just give me a call. I'll tell you how to deal with them.
You're going to get a call from me, I promise you that.
They're all great guys. All right, we got to wrap with your trading secret, a lesson someone can't learn in a classroom, a textbook, or Google on either financial management, career management, just managing life. What would your trading secret be, Mark?
Ask for help. I think you'd be surprised on, especially a person in my age, how many times young people come to me and ask me for something, and I really we're talking about what makes me happy aside from my family, like being able to help someone else, and that I didn't do that a lot. I kind of was like, I got it. And Dixie's a lot like that. But I would say, and maybe you might not get the help but if someone comes to me and they get to me somehow, I'm not saying I could take every person out there, but I'm more than willing to help. And I think a lot of people feel like that. So
I love it. Great advice. And that's awesome that you live by it and you're also willing to give it back. That's awesome. All right. We got season 2 coming up September 28th. We got Heidi and Charli that are going to be on Dancing with the Stars. If people want more of you, Mark, where can they find you?
All my social media is, and I'm trying to figure out what my social media is all about. But I love doing stuff like this.
You're killing for a guy trying to figure it out. You're killing it.
So just all my socials are at Marc D'Amelio, M-A-R-C D'Amelio.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us on Trading Secrets.
This is awesome, man.
It's great.